It's great to be here. Thank you, Warren, for asking me to be here. This is my home market, actually. I've lived very proudly in Ireland for 15 years. My children have gone to school here, and I actually don't often get to talk in Ireland, so thank you for inviting me. So a bit about me. I have been in fashion for many years. If I say how many years, you might guess how old I am. So I will just say for a long time. But my actual background was in product. I started in design, moved into buying. I'm very proud to have worked for Primark for nearly 15 years. And prior to coming into sustainability and lead the Primark Cares strategy, I actually was trading director. So the reason my role was created 5 years ago was very much around how can we bring sustainability front and center into an organization like Primark or Pennies, depending on which country you come from. And it was really to do a couple of things. We have a long history of sustainability and ethics in Primark. Some people will say, I did not know that. I understand that. And that's our job to get that out there. But it was also very much around how do we hold the business to account. So I often say I hold the business's feet to the fire to be more ambitious because we are a global retailer, and therefore with that comes scale and impact. So I am there to drive, innovation, advancement, policy further within Primark, but also partnership with the industry. So just for anyone who is or isn't aware of Primark, obviously Pennies is much loved retailer here in 17 markets now, and I will come on to the complexity of that in a moment. 466 stores, over 80,000 colleagues. I'm very proud, as I said, to be one of those. The numbers at the bottom are really numbers relating to our sustainability strategy for the last 5 years, and I will come back to them because they're really, really important numbers. And obviously huge selling space. So really thinking about what is our responsibility, and we would go out with a mission always, and we stay true to that even with sustainability, is making sustainable clothing affordable for all. And that's a real critical point in terms of, I would often get asked the scale question, but I'd be very passionate about it. If you want to drive change, everybody needs to be welcome, as long as you're a responsible retailer, and you really need to think about how you can use that scale to reduce impact. But the affordable point is really important for a Primark customer, and that's one of the reasons that we have really pushed forward on the circular economy. Primark Cares strategy, I just briefly mentioned it to you there. It has actually been my life for 5 years. I'm very proud to head up Primark Cares, but really it's exactly as I said. It was really launched. It was actually launched to the world, to the industry 4 years ago now, and the ambition was very simple, as I said, making more sustainable product affordable for all. But what's really important, if you look at the light blue one, is looking at how do we give clothes a longer life. So how can a retailer like Primark drive a very old-fashioned industry that I have worked in for many years and love, but how can we actually drive that forward to make change and move our product to remain affordable, but actually more sustainable, and actually give it the longest life as possible. So all pillars are really, really important. They're anchored, obviously, around product, planet, and people. I often say that a sustainability strategy cannot sit just in environmental and product alone. You have to think about the impact on people. And what's really important about that is when we're talking later about green skills, and that's what we're talking about, new innovation, getting to change an industry to move forward. And that's a real opportunity, and that's about innovation and opportunity for people. But also you've got to do it through ethics, human rights, supplier partnerships, which is critical in this industry. So if you want to move scale, change, you have to bring suppliers with you, but also be transparent. And most importantly in this industry now is thinking about what innovation is there out there, and how can a company like Primark use that global supply chain, which is in excess of 650,000 workers, and a supply chain that we don't own. No excuse, but how do you bring them on that circular journey? But what's really important is legislation, and that landscape is changing. And I would probably fair to say that the industry has probably not been regulated, and that is moving into a very heated but positive space. And what I wanted to bring to life is, what does that mean for a retailer like Primark? There is a wave of regulation coming. I would say it's the biggest shift in decades. It's about waste, durability, transparency. How do you come in partnership together? The industry, in my experience, would have been quite siloed, but now in the last 5 years, I've seen a real shift with the right retailers coming together to actually respond to this challenge about reducing waste. In fact, I was actually in London yesterday at the WRAP board meeting that I sit on their board, on their fashion board, and just about to fall over there. And we were in collaboration with people like Marks and Spencer's, Tesco's, and it was a real positive conversation about how do we drive forward in circular. What I would say is what we're asking for is a level playing field. The regulation is there, you've just heard it. I spend a lot of time in Europe. As I said, we're in 15 markets, but what we're looking for is a harmonization. So everybody plays by the same rules. And I think that's really, really important. And particularly when I stand here today in such an amazing stadium, a level playing field is absolutely critical. We spend a lot of time talking to consumers. We've just finished a 10-month study around customers, and there is a say-do gap without a doubt. But we've heard some really interesting stats this morning about that. And customers really do care. What they care about is reducing their impact. What does it mean for them? Can it be affordable? And they care about their community. But one of the issues is they don't understand what to do. So retailers with a very big social following, I think we have 24 million followers on our social platform. We service millions of customers every day. So we have a responsibility to find a way to talk about change and reducing impact. But obviously, as the slide says, greenwashing, absolutely, we shouldn't be greenwashing, but greenhushing is becoming a problem because people or retailers are fearful of talking about change. So without a doubt, one of the things that we are looking for is how can we clearly communicate change to consumers to get them to buy into this movement and make better choices. ESG legislation, you've heard a lot about it today, and I'm not, in the interest of time, because I don't have long, I'm not actually going to talk too much about it, but just in terms of my world, we've seen 400 pieces of legislation, 150 focused on sustainability. It's the biggest change we've seen in 10 months within an 18-month window. We are currently managing in Primark 58 compliance schemes. We see that probably rising to around 80, 86 in the next 3 years. And we do over 300 report submissions, and we're operating it across 16 markets, 15 in the EU. So that harmonization point is really critical, because what we want, we have an amazing team in Primark. I have 130 people in country and about 97 in head office around circular skills, water stewardship, carbon, et cetera, And what you really want is those people to be focused on driving change, not being lost in regulation that isn't harmonized. So just the next bit is really about a case study, what we've been doing for 5 years, because the strategy page that you saw earlier is, it's well designed, it's lovely, but it has to look like action. So what does that actually look like? And we've gone out 4 years ago with a very clear mission around driving circularity and designing and creating clothes with a future in mind. And that really, we look at it the whole end to end. So how do we design it? What are the materials that we're using? Manufacture, how can a retailer like Primark, what role do they play in care and repair? And then reuse and recycle. So my teams are really thinking about how can they design a garment at the beginning of life to ultimately, when you've used it, and the idea is to get to use it for as long as possible and repair it if it needs it, but at the end to actually think about how can it be recycled. These, I would say, although the circles, they're actually steps. I could talk about all of them, and I generally don't have the time, but what we've looked at is circularity. I think it was mentioned this morning that a lot of people understand the word here in Ireland. What I would say is people need it broken down. It can feel quite confusing. So what we've looked at is thinking, what does the circular ecosystem look like for a retailer like Primark? So really thinking about how do we design with the end in life? Can that garment be recycled? The use of recycled materials, and the big stat that you saw earlier, we started with Primark Cares in more sustainable materials at 25% of our range. We're now at 66, and our new report in November will increase that. So really thinking about what steps do we need to do to make materials have less impact, but also can move into that circular economy. The durability one I do want to mention, many of you who probably aren't in fashion, there is no standard around durability. Some retailers test not at all for washing. Some test to 5 washes. We launched a durability standard in line with our circular principles to make sure that our suppliers are following, we have different levels, but aspirational level to move things like denim jeans up to 45 washes, and have a standard out there that we shared with the industry to hold our suppliers and our business to account. And that's a really important step when you're talking about how do you make, or do you move towards circular economy. Repair, I just want to touch on as well. We launched 4 years ago now the idea of bringing repair back to the high street. It's a lost skill in education in lots and lots of generations. And what we've done is offered free repair workshops for over 7,000 customers and over 400 workshops, and it's now in 9 countries. And they're all completely booked out. But what we've done to get to that scale question is we've actually put it across our social channels. And actually often we have more buy-in on that social post than we do on a women's wear garment. So there is an appetite to relearn those skills of how do you stitch your button on rather than throw a pair of jeans or whatever out in the bin. We're also looking at textile takeback. We're at 66% of our stores have textile takeback, that we have zero landfill policy, but actually that will increase to 88%. It's not the final solution, but we're really looking at how do we move that through innovation and investment through textile to textile recycling. And what's most important is when I talk to innovators and investors, what they're looking for is Primark scale to drive real change. So another one of our standards that we launched, and we work in partnership with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, with RAP and many others, but we actually launched our own circular product standard. So we are holding ourselves to account, but we're sharing it with the industry. And that's a very robust process that we follow, all certified before we'll put product out there. But the most important thing is we've trained our design teams and our buying teams and our suppliers in circular design principles. And they see that as a new skill. They see it as making a difference. And it's quite exciting to see, as I said, a very classic industry, very energized in a new process that will become stronger and stronger through the fashion industry. And then on circular design clothing, and now that number, and I'll just move on of what it actually looks like to consumers. You might think that looks small at 3%, but when you're talking Primark volumes, you're talking about millions of garments that we're actually making change and that we're holding ourselves to account on that. What I'm actually wearing today is one of our new collections that's gone out there, circular denim. So it's made from Recover, who take clip waste from a supply chain and feed it into our manufacturers. So it's recycled cotton and cotton from our own cotton program, which trains over 300,000 farmers in regeneration skills, but also in life and health and well-being skills. 80% of those farmers are women, so we're actually really targeting that group of women. And I've been out to India and Bangladesh and Pakistan and seen those programs, and they're really life-changing. But most importantly, it's about, these are not just small collections. These are large-scale collections that run through our supply chain, and they're affordable. And the same with this T-shirt. So the difference with the T-shirt, it now sits out to our circular standard. It has a durability standard, so the wash levels have been increased, the seaming has been increased, and it has no labels. So at end of life, we can actually recycle it. It's also made from a mono material, which makes it much easier to put back through the system when all the system aligns and is a joined-up approach. Now, these are first steps in an industry that all need to come together to drive change. And materials, as I've mentioned, I mean, we've kind of talked about this in all honesty, but it's important because of the scale of it. And the Recover partnership, as I mentioned, is really about how do you do those fibre partnerships at scale so you can keep those garments affordable, because in our customer base, a customer would not want to pay £50 for a sustainable T-shirt. So we've deliberately kept it true to our ethos as a business that we're offering more sustainable product for all. And then just lastly, because I have 7 seconds yet, so apologies, I'm going to run over by 1 minute, I think. Where is this going for the future? And, you know, I do spend a lot of time in this space, and I get very excited about it for someone who's been in the industry. For me, it's a new skill as well. You know, we're driving change, we are challenging, you know, we're asking for harmonization, we're asking for policy leaders to bring retailers, manufacturers to the table, because we've learned a lot of lessons in 4 or 5 years. And, you know, again, I don't have time to talk to you about it. But it is about upskilling. It's about really driving those new skills forward. And it's not easy. But actually, there's a real energy and innovation piece there that really does capture hearts and minds. Next generation materials and fibres. I've talked to you about the scale that we have within Primark. We are valuable, but coming together as retailers in a very safe space is quite critical here now. And one of the areas that we're really looking at is textile to textile recycling, and that is really evolving. Enhanced textile collection sorting, obviously, as I said, it's important, but actually it's an industry problem that we all need to come together and actually bring lots of industries into this conversation. And then the last but not least, and I'll leave that thought with you, is really about how can we see the opportunity here, the excitement, the energy, and how can we come together as an industry to really drive change forward. And those collaborations are critical, because we absolutely, you know, as I stand here today with Primark, I'm very proud of the work we've done, but we can't do it on our own. So it's really brilliant to see all of you in the room today talking about the circular economy. How can we use all of those ideas and that creation to drive forward? And as the headline says, clothing is only waste when it's wasted. So it is really thinking about what is the value in that. And with that, I will say thank you very much for having me, and happy to chat later.